The city where the rent was paid with cigarettes. Imagine waking up in a city where the rent for your apartment isn't paid with money, but with cigarettes. Not cards, not bank transfers, not digital currency, just cigarettes. Sounds like an exaggeration, a dystopia, but that was the harsh and concrete reality in post-war Germany. Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when an entire society loses faith in its currency? When banknotes become nothing more than worthless paper, and desperate people start searching for anything that can be exchanged for food or shelter. Immediately after the collapse of Nazi Germany, with cities reduced to rubble and a devastated economy, the German mark completely lost its utility. And in this value vacuum, something unusual took its place: cigarettes. Yes, small tubes of tobacco became the new currency, accepted in bakeries, markets, beauty salons, and even by landlords as a legitimate form of rent payment. It was a bartering system governed by something as ephemeral as the smoke emitted from a lit cigarette, yet it carried a tangible value. A pack of American cigarettes was worth more than banknotes. And curiously, even non-smokers carried cigarettes in their pockets as a means of protection against poverty. But why cigarettes? What made this specific item so powerful during a time of economic collapse? Was it merely a matter of convenience, or was there a deeper symbolism behind this makeshift money? In this video, we're going to delve into one of the most surreal and true stories of modern economics. A story in which value wasn't defined by central banks, but by the dirty and anxious hands of a devastated population. Get ready to uncover how war, scarcity, and mistrust in the monetary system turned an addiction into official currency, and what it still teaches us today about the true value of money. At the end of World War II, Germany was not only a defeated country, it was a devastated territory in every sense. Its cities were in ruins, the infrastructure destroyed, millions of people without housing, food, or hope. But there was something even more alarming: the absolute collapse of confidence in money. The Reichsmark, once a symbol of German economic strength, had turned into worthless pieces of paper. Without a reliable central government and with a fragmented economy, the population had to improvise. The black market exploded. People traded clothes for potatoes, watches for soap, furniture for canned goods. But among so many items circulating in informal exchanges, one stood out for the speed with which it conquered its place as a parallel currency: the cigarette. American cigarettes, brought in large quantities by Allied soldiers, began to circulate as units of value. They had perfect characteristics for the function. They were light, easy to carry, standardized, difficult to counterfeit, and above all, highly desirable. Even non-smokers recognized their exchange value. And so, in cities like Frankfurt, Munich, and Berlin, cigarettes began to dictate prices and moral values. It was possible to see a surreal scene: a barber charging 5 cigarettes for a haircut, a farmer demanding whole packs in exchange for eggs or meat, and, in documented cases, landlords charging monthly rent in packs of cigarettes because they knew they could be easily traded for other goods. This rudimentary form of economy revealed far more than just desperation. It unveiled the instinctive nature of human beings to seek safety, stability, and value. And when traditional money fails, we turn to what seems most reliable to us, even if that something is an addiction. In this video, we'll contextualize how Germany was forced to reinvent its economy based on cigarettes, and what this phenomenon reveals to us about the fragility of currencies, the impact of wars, and the symbolic construction of value. After all, when smoke replaces gold, what remains of civilization? As cigarettes solidified their role as currency in post-war Germany, their economic, social, and even moral implications became increasingly evident. What had begun as an improvised solution to make up for the collapse of the mark evolved into a highly functional parallel economy, and in many cases, more reliable than the official system. In cities like Frankfurt, Hamburg, and Berlin, informal markets operated entirely on the basis of cigarettes. It was possible to draw a parallel with a banking system. An ordinary citizen could save cigarettes, invest in products that would appreciate in value, and lend packs in exchange for favors or services. Even children began to understand the basic principles of supply and demand as they watched their parents calculate daily expenses in packs of Camel or Chesterfield cigarettes. But the impacts went beyond the economy. There was also a profound psychological and social effect. Those who held large quantities of cigarettes, often American soldiers or opportunists connected to the black market, wielded disproportionate power over the impoverished population. A single pack could guarantee access to food, shelter, or scarce medication. The cigarette ceased to be just an addiction and became an instrument of social control. This logic created a new temporary elite, cigarette holders. It was common to see liberal professionals, doctors, lawyers, and teachers trading their services for cigarettes, while former military personnel and black market merchants grew wealthy in this inverted value system. The economy was becoming dematerialized, with value shaped by desire, scarcity, and the instinct for survival. Furthermore, public health also suffered consequences. Even people who had never smoked before began hoarding and trading cigarettes. Many, ultimately, through influence or necessity, adopted the habit as part of their routine, resulting in an increase in smoking among a population that was already physically and emotionally fragile. This period has shown how the value of money is, at its core, a social construct based on trust. And when that trust is broken, anything can take its place, even something that slowly kills. The story of a society that used cigarettes as currency is not just an economic curiosity, it's a mirror that reflects just how fragile, mutable, and profoundly human our structures of value are. When the foundations of the system crumble, when the state fails, when trust evaporates, we are forced to create new forms of exchange, survival, and to assign meaning to the most mundane things. In post-war Germany, the cigarette ceased to be just a product and became a symbol of power, of hope, of access. And more than that, it became a cruel reminder that value doesn't lie in the things themselves, but in what we believe they represent. A pack of cigarettes could be a hot meal, a safe night's sleep, a decent haircut, or a rent payment. Not because the cigarette was magical, but because, in that context, it carried a silent agreement. Everyone believed it had value. That is, at its core, the essence of money. Whether it's gold, paper, digital numbers, or smoke, what sustains a currency is collective trust. And when that trust is shattered, the world changes shape. Today, we live in a world of digital currencies, speculation, cryptocurrencies, and artificial intelligence. Yet, the lesson from Frankfurt, Berlin, and other German cities in 1945 still resonates. Value is a human construct, fragile, shaped by crises and needs. What if tomorrow your money was worthless? What would you use to trade for food, for shelter? What would society choose as its new currency? This story isn't just about the past. It's a warning about the present and about the future. If you found this story astonishing, like this video, subscribe to the Enriching World channel, and share it with someone who still believes money is indestructible. Leave a comment. Would you accept cigarettes as a form of payment if the economy collapsed today? And stay with us. Our next video reveals how bars of soap, seashells, and even cocoa beans were once more valuable than gold. Because, in the end, the story of money is, above all, the story of our collective faith in what has or doesn't have value.